Welcome to the Command Center Draft Special presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders. Get 20% off Commanders tickets this weekend. Use code COMMAND. That's code COMMAND on the SeatGeek app. Brian Cooper Jr. here with Mr. 8 to the 9 Santana Moss, Super Bowl champion Brian Mitchell. I feel like I've said y'all name a lot these past few days. Fellas, a lot is going on. Before we do anything else, we do have our guys out in Ashburn, but let's break down this trade real quick because there was a trade, right? So Washington received the 50th pick in the second round, the 53rd pick in the second round, and 161, that's a fifth-round pick, and they gave up the 40th pick in the second round, the 78th pick in the third, and the 152nd pick in the fifth round. So let me break it down for you guys. That's a lot. All right, let's see how many draft picks we have left. So now we have the 50th. That's what we're on the clock for right now. Then we have the 53rd pick, a very quick pick after that. Then we have 2 third-rounders, 67 and 100. Then we have 1 fifth-round pick, 139. Then we have, 2 fifth-round picks, 139 and 161. Then we have 222
they gained
the seventh. They really did. So really, you move back 10 spots to move up 23 spots. Fellas, man, how you liking Adam Peters' willing to deal? He shows us that he's willing to do that sometimes.
He's making moves, man.
Yeah,
I think that's when you're going to move a little bit, you want to get something for it. And Adam did that. You know, and I know there are going to be people out there talking about, they traded with the Eagles. Who cares? when you're making your team better, you don't care what the other team does. And I think that's what we got to get. We've been through this thing so much where guys worry about who we trade with. Go get who you want, and we're going to kick your ass anyway.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I love it, man. It just shows you why it's so valuable to have a guy in that position. You know, being a I guess you could say a headstrong GM. You know, I mean, for so many years we've done it different ways by having a coach at that position or having, I guess you can say so from the ownership. And it's great to just see now we have one that's, that's good at his job. And this is not just to say because of what he's doing he's good, but it's just from where he's from and some of the things that he's experienced, man. He's bringing that to us. And we're ready. We've been ready for it. So I'm happy that he's able to understand that, we didn't need anybody around the picks that we had. So let's slide back a little bit because some of those guys, like we said before, if it's not worth us spending that money on them that far up, slide back. You know what I mean? Move out the way and let somebody else be picked up, and then we can get our guy.
I think he's in the mindset of, I'm not going to draft somebody just to draft them. And I know a lot of fans have gone out there, and we have our mind made up on what we're supposed to do, why we should do it. Well, Adam is telling you, listen, we've done the research. We have the analytics. We know that he's not worth that pick, and we're not going to pick him. So we're going to wait and get the guys that we want at the position that we think they should be picked at. Now, when you have a coaching staff that can go out there, and develop that talent, you make them even better.
And like Tanner said, we ready. Now, we definitely ready. We're here in the war room, but we have the rest of our Command Center crew out in Ashburn in the studio. So let's hear from them about not only this trade, but what's about to happen next.
Go on. All right, thank you, Brian. Here's London Fletcher, Fred Smoot, Logan Paulson. I'm Bram Whitestein. What did you make of the trade?
Yeah, I like it because now you picks in the third round coming up. Just willing to deal. Adam Peters doing what he does best.
And I think the defensive tackles have pushed everybody back in the draft. That's what me and Logan was talking about. And I think that put them in the mind frame of we can have our cake and eat it too if we can get farther back in here. And with them getting 2 draft picks back to back, that's a plus.
We were talking before we came on. Offensive line, there's so many players that went off the board early. And we know this is a need here, but maybe Adam Peters looked at it and said, we could get more assets and just move down and let it come to us.
I totally agree. I think when you're looking at how the draft, the flow of the draft and all those offensive linemen go in the first round, all the needy teams were gone, right? So then we're in that kind of meat at the top of the second round there, and they said, hey, we don't actually need to take an offensive lineman here. They'll fall to us. Let's take our best player available and make some moves.
And that's when you know your intel, your scouts, the area scouts, your college scouts have done an excellent job identifying, hey, the defensive tackle is about to be a run on these guys. And I actually just ran into some of the coaches at the defense side. They're excited about doing it. I was out there chopping it up with them. They're extremely excited. But now you got 2 more picks coming up in the second round. I have an opportunity to get you a tackle and whatever position that you DB, wide receiver,
rusher,
whatever. Edge rush, Nealand.
Dude, he is a heck of a football player, man. Like, he is a physical, tough guy, and it just again screams that Commanders mentality. I mean, there's Kalen Bullock we were just talking about. Bullard from Georgia in terms of safety play. Like
Kitchen, the safety from Miami is still up there. He was ranked very high. So right now with those picks, you got the pick of the litter. Like he said, everybody's funded to you. Everybody everybody's falling to you. Now they're going to have to decide who's most important on their board.
We thought early in the second round as well there was a possibility that receiver, there were some really good ones, and actually the Chargers jumped up and took Ladd McConkey. Listen, a third receiver is not out of the realm here either if the right person's on the board for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of depends on what you're looking for at this point. I think Roman Wilson from Michigan is probably the next guy, in terms of Malachi Corley, excellent football player in terms of slot body types.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a true number one, obviously A.D. Mitchell's still on the board. I think sliding for different reasons, maybe personality
I
related.
want a bigger body receiver.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those guys too.
6'2" and taller. 6'1" and taller.
Baby tree.
And the pick is in, so let's send it back to Detroit with Brian Santana and B. Mitch.
Do you feel we're gonna go defense again, offense? How are you guys feeling right now?
I mean, you never know, and I'm not finna sit here and jump the gun like I've been doing. So let's listen.
Oh, we go. Mike Sainristil. Mike Sainristil, defensive back out of Michigan, 5'10", ran a 4.47 40. Fast guy, can cover. Maybe he'll be in that slot. We talked about needing a defensive back here. Fellas, how you feeling about this guy?
Well, he's one of those guys that Logan had in his top 10 most available players coming into this second round. And just to know what we have defensively with the head coach and then with Joe Witt, we solidifying those guys that can run. We need speedsters out there on the outside. Yes. And when you have a guy that's versatile like him, he can play either outside or inside, man. It's a great pickup for us.
And I think also when you look at the fact we went into this thing thinking about offensive linemen.
Yes.
Listen, I think that they feel happy with what they did inside.
Yeah.
They have comfort level with Lucas and also Wiley. But I think that there's something coming. That's me. That's me thinking this. I think they're still going to have some moves that may happen a little bit later because there will be some offensive linemen around June that come free.
And Beamish, to your point as well, we have a pick coming up in just 3 picks.
Yeah.
Patrick Paul's still there, a guy that you guys both talked about. So they've been able to move back, get some guys. Are you surprised, though, at the defense, right? 2 defensive guys. We know Dan Quinn is a defensive mind. Is that a little surprising at this point?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think not so much because I know we had areas of need also. We just thought the other areas of need was a little, I guess, weighted a little more. So just to see that, hey, these guys have what they have and they know where to get these guys. I mean, I'm not mad at all. Like I said before, they get paid to do this.
Yes.
So let them do it. You know what I'm saying?
And you got to understand, too, that Joe Witt Jr. knows his guys. He knows how to get the best out of defensive backs. So if Joe Witt Jr. says, we taking a second-round guy, you listen to him and you believe him. Now, let's talk a little bit also about Johnny Newton since we're here. Right? We have a little conversation about Johnny Newton real quick. He is coming off of a foot surgery, pinky toe. He's coming off foot surgery. He says he's healthy, but you got to imagine Dan Quinn and Daryl Tapp know this guy, know he's good. And he said something else, B. Mitch, is very important because you said this. He said he has a chip on his shoulder for not going in the first round. You said you wanted these guys that are angry.
Guys that have that animosity and that get upset about that's also willing to invest in putting that energy behind proving somebody wrong.
Yeah.
Another thing I love about that fact is you look at what Witt and Quinn has done. They've gotten the best, the absolute best out of their players.
Yeah.
So if they go and get the absolute best, like, the guy had a hurt pinky toe, had surgery. He was rated top 1 or 2. That says a lot about his talent. So some people might have shied away from him. They say, no, come on in here. We'll give you a little time to rest up, get right, and then we're going to make sure you play the best. And then he's upset with a chip on his shoulder?
Yeah.
I'll take that any day.
Yes, we will. And talk about Mike Sainristil. So, Tanner, you've matched up against some of the better corners in NFL history. This guy's a smaller guy, but he's fast. He's athletic. 40-inch vertical. What problems does guys like that possess for a receiver like yourself?
I mean, when guys are quick, well, I'm a small guy. So, I mean, he's just a guy that have to know where I'm going. I really never had problems with guys my size because at the end of the day, I still have the advantage. Now, he's quick. He's quick twitched up. He can run. So with that being said, you just have to be precise with what you're doing. What he's going to be able to do now for guys that's a little bigger is be a gnat, be a pest. You know what I mean? Especially with these guys that he's going to learn from. It's going to teach him how to anticipate and do some of the things that can go with his attributes. But I'm just looking forward to seeing him in here. I saw him fly around, on the college level. He's going to get in here with a great defensive mind, head coach and defensive coordinator, and now the sky's the limit for the kid.
For sure.
Yeah, man, listen. Corner, that dude played very well.
Yes, he did.
And I think ultimately we thought that cornerback was a position of need. They had a chance to get somebody, okay? And they got him in the second round. What what grade did they have on him? Did they have him a little higher? Whatever. But I think now they gave themselves an extra second-round pick, which may still give them a chance to go and get another.
Get that tackle.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We'll
Keep
see.
talking
We'll see.
about these tackles again. Mike Sainristil from Michigan, man, a true dog, does not play his size. You see him, he looks a lot bigger than he actually is. Now, let's send it over to the studio and see how these guys feel about this pick. What's up, fellas?
Love this pick. Okay, corner was definitively a need. Played on the national championship team. Plays a little bigger than really what his size is. Had 6 interceptions last year. You know what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt have done with cornerbacks in interceptions over the course of their career. They might have a steal here.
Steal? I mean, this is one of my favorite players in the entire draft. We talk about compete. We talk about toughness. This guy is 5'9", 182. He makes tackles. He's reading screens. He's instinctive. He can play man. He's that kind of lurk hybrid linebacker corner player that's in the box. His numbers don't scream like big nickel, but he plays like a big nickel, can cover outside. He was my 4th rated corner. I knew he was going to go later because he's kind of an inside exclusive guy. But, man, he is a football player, and it just gets me so pumped because there's 2 guys like that now on this defense.
Well, that's funny you said that because think about the football he comes from. We said Jim Harbaugh, pro style. We talk about the defense coordinator right now from the Ravens. He's already played pro defensive scheme. He knows it inside and out. And the thing about it is, what is he better at, zone or man? He can play whatever you ask him to. And we talked about it. Maybe he just only a nickel. I won't pigeonhole him like that. I say let him grow and maybe he can be an outside guy too.
When you watch the film, watch the footage of him, what jumps off you is the competitive spirit, the competitive nature, a competitive dog. Just watching him, and I didn't know a whole lot about him, but I'm just looking at this guy. I'm like, man, he fits the traits, the characteristics, the mode of a football player of the new Washington Commanders, and you can see why Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. were so excited about being able to add him to this defense.
They have a couple ball hawks now. Emmanuel Forbes, now Sainristil. Just last year, Deron Bland set the NFL record for pick sixes the year before. Trayvon Diggs had the most interceptions in Dallas Cowboys history. They've got a couple of guys that can work behind this line.
No, most definitely. They got guys with ball skills. You just said it. They don't want just a corner. They want corners that used to play wide receiver. They want corners that understand route patterns. They want corners that understand defense. And the best thing that happened to Emmanuel Forbes and the rest of that defensive back group is Witt, Coach Witt, bringing them and not teaching them just how to play inside a defense, teaching them how to make plays while playing inside the defense. And I think that's what's going to make this group special. You can look for everybody in the defensive backfield to uptick their play.
Sainristil played wide receiver at Michigan as of a few years ago. Switched over to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about this that I'm getting excited about now is you got Quan Martin, you got Sainristil, you got Percy Butler, you got Forrest. You got all these guys that are kind of positionless in terms of role. And think about what you can do in terms of messing with offenses when that's on the table.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's when the pick came in. And I'm starting to try to put all this together. You brought in Jeremy Chin. And I'm like, what is this secondary going to look like, man?
Whatever it needs to.
Exactly.
I like.
Exactly. Create chaos, create confusion. You talked about playing in a pro-style defense. He played under McDonald, and then, that defensive coordinator that Michigan had last year. Schematically wise, he's been coached like a pro already. Head coach Jim Harbaugh, he has a temperament, he has the makeup that you need.
He's got a heck of a backstory too. It's for another day. His family actually fled from Haiti and came here, and you'll love this part. He speaks Creole, so you're going to really enjoy that.
Me and him understand each other perfectly, Graham. We're okay.
Sometimes I had to get our Google Translator to talk smooth.
Listen, the picks are moving fast. Washington's going to be back on the clock here any moment. I think they're up to 52, so they're up next to get on the clock. What do you expect for 53 now?
I mean, for me, it just seems like they are hungering for the best player on the board. So now it's the only people in the room are those guys in there. So I just think about tough, competitive, physical guys. There's a ton of those guys available, and maybe they sneak an offensive lineman in there. Who knows?
Kingsley Sumatea, maybe.
No, man. I keep saying, man, we got to get a fat guy on the offensive line. But do they trade back and say, hey, we could move back a few more spots, pick up an additional pick, and still get our tackle?
I don't think so. Chris Braswell
That's not a bad call.
I'm just saying, somebody like that, you get your edge rusher. We talked about best talent available. That's another guy that didn't drop.
Marshawn
Neal.
Yes.
Mohamed Kamara from Ohio State,
yeah.
a guy with a lot of juice.
I like Kamara.
Yeah, very competitive and very physically tough.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to be talking out there about when are they going to get the tackle. It is the need for them. I believe corner was a need too. There was a necessity for a potential starting corner, and maybe Sainristil with all that experience gives them that.
First thing when people ask you why we haven't got a tackle yet, best player available. At the end of the day, it's supply and demand, and right now the demand is defensive players.
Well, it could be a situation, and we don't know this because we're not in their draft board, and to see their draft board, like what I mentioned about Newton, the guy may have been valued so high, they probably didn't, maybe they didn't expect him to be here. It's like, he's too good to pass up. The value that we have, the rating, where we rank him, he may have just been too high to not take him.
That is clearly what happened with Johnny Newton.
Because
that was not the definitive need position, but he was too high up on their board to pass up at that point at 36.
And that just shows me you're not, this why you do what you did in free agency, so I don't get to this point and everything is about need. Now, sometimes it's all about want. That's when you take your kid to the grocery store, you say don't touch that, they be like, no, Daddy, I want that. At the end of the day, they wanted Newton.
No matter what, though, they need a left tackle. We all understand that. So that's going to have to be addressed, whether it's now, tonight, tomorrow, or after the drafted free agents. It's going to have to happen.
But I will say, though, one of the things about the pre-draft process is a lot of these kind of second wave tackles, the guys that were going in the first round, were projected to be end of second round, early third round guys. And where do we have all these picks now? End of second round, early third round. And so I think there's a great opportunity there to get one of those 4 guys that we discussed earlier. So I'm not freaking out about that yet. And again, if you get good football players, man, this team's going to get better, and this is a long-term vision for success.
Colts just made their pick. Adonai Mitchell, the receiver out of Texas. So Washington's back on the clock as we send it back to Brian Santana and B. Mitch.
Welcome back, Commanders family. Brian Colbert Jr., Santana Moss, Brian Mitchell out here in Detroit in the war room. 2 defensive players go. Now we're back on the clock. Fellas, what do you guys expect here?
The emoji.
I don't know, but I just saw a receiver go right before
Yep.
what we were doing, and a lot of times when people go, that move before normally makes a decision, but I'm still waiting on that tackle.
Yeah.
You know what? This is the last pick of the second round. Let's see if we can find ourselves one.
And I mean, there are some tackles available. There's a tight end available in Jatavion Sanders. We have Peyton Wilson, another guy that was on some mock drafts. So there are some guys out there. Very interested to see. Clearly, we can't guess this, right? Clearly, we have no idea what's going on. But let's talk a little bit more about Mike Sainristil. Doing some research on him. He was a former receiver. Tanner, you've been against a bunch of different kind of corners. What about those guys that are versatile like that have that receiver background? Does that give them an edge?
I mean, you look at Diggs, you know, how his game translated from being a former cornerback to a receiver. Now you're talking about this guy being a former receiver to a DB. Now, when I was younger, you know, I played both. And I used to love it because I just knew everything about what I was seeing from the other position. I was able to read and dissect that before it happened. So he much older, and you never know how far he took that. He probably played it in high school, or he probably had a little stint of it, you know, in college. But wherever he had a stint of it, he knows it. And that means he's going to go out there and play the receiver because he knows what these guys, you know, nuances is when it comes to dropping your hips, eyes getting big, you know, trying to look off to make you think that you're going another way. All that stuff has an effect in how you go out there and, I guess you can say, study that guy. And some of those things we give off not even knowing we give it off. Being that he was a former receiver, he's going to know it firsthand. So when he sees it, it's going to alert him to know that, oh, I got this guy.
Well, you're going to have to go back to that receiver experience because normally when you were a former receiver and you became a cornerback, that means you couldn't catch. So hopefully
he can catch.
He can catch also with it. But I think he will, like Tanner said, he will know what they're running.
Yes.
He's going to pick up on things. As a defensive back, you know, as a former receiver, if they're looking one way, they're not going that direction.
Yes.
They're trying to set you up to go somewhere else. You know, just like a safety and a quarterback. Guy that was a quarterback that plays safety and vice versa. Those different things come into play. But don't let that rumor or that how things would be that you move because you couldn't catch. Don't haunt you because you get paid in the NFL by catching balls as a defensive back.
And to your point, Sainristil, when he does intercept that ball, he's going to house it. That brother is athletic. He is very, very fast. And let's talk about this draft as a whole right now because, again, we've talked about the collaboration between Dan Kuhn and Adam Peters. We're seeing the type of guys they're bringing in. What grade would you give us so far now that we're here?
You know, I don't like to I don't like to jump the gun, man. We still have a lot to do.
Yeah.
You said so far. I would say we somewhere around a B.
Okay.
I'll give us a B. I say that because, like I said, everything looks good right now. I mean, some of these, like me and him both, me and B-Mitch both said we still have a position that we feel like it needs to be filled. But like I said, something brewing. He knows it. I know it. You're going to know it too sooner or later. It may be a guy later on that we go after that position. Who knows? But right now I say a B because all these guys has great potential. I think our main focus was getting that quarterback, and that makes a hell of a lot difference, from what we had coming into this draft. But, getting the guys is one thing. Now getting them out there, developing them, is going to be another thing. So right now I say a B.
You can't give a final grade right now.
Yeah.
Because ultimately right now they draft them, and on paper we've done very well. Okay, the pick at quarterback was outstanding. Now we're sitting here, so I'm like Tanner. I'm not going to go A. You would want to give it, but you know what? You can't improve upon an A.
Really ain't want to give him a B, but
I'm going C+ at this point. You know why I'm going to say that? Because it's something you can grow, you can build on.
Yes, for sure.
I believe they've done better, but I'm a teacher that's going to say C+. I'm going to piss you off a little bit, make you go work a little harder.
There you go. We love that. We guys aren't scared of some work. Now, the pick is in. It has not been announced yet, but we are waiting on that. Fellas, we know tackle. We know we need a tackle. What are our other positions of needs as of now that we got that defensive back last pick?
Tight end.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen the tight end come off the board yet for us. And like I said, I won't be surprised with a receiver, too. You can get a receiver this late.
For
it's
sure.
still early, kind of, but you can get a receiver somewhere around here.
A tight end, because I think the guy from Iowa is still out there, isn't he?
Yep, the guy from Texas is still there as well.
He's a bad boy. I don't know. We may be able to get him a little later, but we'll see.
Yep, we got some dogs out there.
Dang, we still in the second round.
We're still in the second round.
We're talking like we in the fifth or sixth right now.
Right.
I feel like it.
Right, and as you guys have mentioned earlier in the show, you can get quality talent in the second round. You can get starters. You can even get it in the third.
Most of these guys have dropped from the first round.
Exactly.
So quality is beyond quality. These guys are first round caliber players that now getting picked up in the second.
Yep, and we have Darryl Green back out there, and I don't know if he's going to do a whole nother soliloquy. But you know what, B-Mitch? I feel like you need to text him and say, hey, man, let's pick up the pace a little bit. But the pick is in. Oh, man, he's still going. Okay, my producer Jason's letting me know the pick is in. Wow, just like you guys said, we went Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. This is a 6'4", 245-pound monster. 2023 honorable mention, All-American. He's an all-around tight end, even played in the backfield as a wide receiver as well as blocking inline. So this guy does everything. We see Dan Quinn wants these versatile players, man. How hard for you to see that we got this tight end?
Well, it's great because, that's one of the things that we say that's a position for need or of need, and you never know. We sitting here calling all type of names out, and you feel the spot, but it's a whole different guy. But like I said earlier, you need a guy that can just do more than just be a pass catcher.
Yes,
he has a little more in his toolbox, and that's what you want. You want a guy that's versatile. We have Ertz there. We have a couple of more guys that we still developing, and hopefully these guys, that maturation period kick in this year. But you have a guy that probably can jump out there right now and get in the mix with all those guys. So man, it's a great pickup.
And the thing about it, Zach Ertz been on his football team. That's a lot he can learn. Yes, you have a good tight end coach, but ultimately that guy that played it and is out there with you, you can learn a lot. And I think that's the reason Zach Ertz is here too. A guy that's been around long enough to also can help the coach implement that offense.
Tight end out of Kansas State, Ben Sinnott. Now, while you guys were talking, they just played this video. He used to play hockey, and it was this video of him just leveling some guy, and those are the dogs we need here. I'm so excited about this. He's a big monster. We love that in D.C. Now, let's send it back to Ashburn, to our guys, to let them react on this pick.
Yeah, Ben Sinnott, not even just hockey, lettered in track, tennis, golf, baseball, football. He played everything. Ended up walking on at Kansas State, turned into a star tight end for them. You heard the measurables about him. And at the Combine, Logan, he really killed it, and I think got on everybody's radar.
Yeah, killed it. And I think you see the 40-inch vertical, you see the 10-10 broad. Had the 4.6 40, which is pretty good. But I think the thing about him, he is an athlete, man. He can bend, he can move, he's physical, he can make those tough catches, he gets competitive in line. You can line up anywhere across the formation. He gives you so much flexibility as an offensive coordinator. He can say, hey, play fullback, maybe we can give you some touches out of the backfield. He's just such a unique player. And again, we're going to say this 1,000 times, he's a competitive, tough son of a gun, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You watch him at the Senior Bowl. He's 250. He's blocking 6 techniques. Doesn't turn it down. He's leading ISOs. Like, he's, again, a football player's football player, and there's definitely been a theme of that
I
tonight.
like players that had to go through life trials and tribulations. You talked about him being a walk-on. You talk about him having to climb that ladder. You're talking about him. So nothing was given to this guy.
Yeah.
So he'll come into this league and he will think the same way. We talked, what type of guy is an Adam Peters guy? We talking mentality. That's another mentality pick right there. So at the end of the day, now I know what it means to be a commander. Like, I'm starting to see what it means for the makeup to be a commander.
Just look at it. You mentioned scheme flexibility or position flexibility in terms of, hey, where are you going to line him up? You got, if you want to go 12 personnel, him and Zach Ertz on the field together. If we want to get big tight ends and run the football, or we want to flex one of those guys out, we got versatility.
And we're going to have to wait. You'll have to be patient on the offensive line.
I know, man, I know.
I think they've worked this well. There have been very few outside offensive linemen. A couple interior ones have gone, not the tackles. So they're waiting for that to fall to them. And they preemptively, I think, went after Sinnott because Brock Bowers was the only tight end who was selected. So they wanted to get ahead of that before it turns around in the third round, as we send it back to Brian Santana and B. Mitch.
Commanders family, we know you are excited. We came out of this second round with some dogs. Johnny Newton, Mike Sainristil, and Ben Sinnott all coming to Washington. Now, we're going to go, but we will be back when we're back on the clock in the third round. Fellas, sorry, but we ain't going nowhere just yet. You know what I'm saying? We still here for y'all, but it's all good. We will have our guys back out in Ashburn as well. But until then, we will see y'all in the third round.
Join me as I take a deep dive into the least insulted ticketing app in history, SeatGeek. Did SeatGeek invent the ticket?
No, but we do make them work.
Drum roll, please. Ooh, how do I use the Seat View feature?
It shows seats with a pole blocking the view. Don't buy those.
What if I want to sit behind a pole?
Buy those.
Join me as I bore you to death with a series of interviews about a ticketing app that just does what it's supposed to do.